I was smoking by the window when the landline rang. Those machines were almost extinct, but I liked the way the crackle of their ringing pierced the silence as if someone from the past was demanding a meeting. Maxfer? The voice on the phone was metallic, official. We've got a dead body. It's nothing special. Just him, nothing. No ID. No face. I squinted. Come again? He has no face. No skin, no features. It's as if someone had decided to forget him down to the last detail. Or never knew him. I don't believe in mysticism. Faith prevents me from seeing. But experience has also taught me that if reality looks like a delusion, don't be too quick to call it fiction. The vacant lot was on the outskirts. Abandoned garages, rusty netting, frozen garbage. Gray snow with streaks of oil. A corpse lay near a power line pole, as if waiting for a lightning strike. The body showed no signs of struggle. Just laid down. Like a thing. I crouched down next to it. Skin as smooth as parchment. Not a single mole, not a single scar. No hair, no eyebrows. Nose, mouth, eyes, all erased as if with a finger of ink. A man, but like a sketch, not yet finished. Who found it? I asked the sergeant. A homeless woman. Looking for metal, sleeps in heating ducts. She said he whispered to her through the snow. I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't know what to say. But because such words didn't sound strange in this town. There was a deafening smell of dust and old linoleum and confessions. Did you run the prints? I asked. The cop shrugged his shoulders. There were none. Not a single one. Not on his fingers, not in the database. It was like he'd never lived. Or died. What about the teeth? Implants are cheap, like they were in the 90s. But no serial numbers. It doesn't smell special, it's like someone tried to make it as ordinary as possible. He took a drag and added. You like hopeless cases, Maxfer? I stepped out into the hallway and lingered at the broken window. The wind carried the smell of wet rags and damp brick from the street. I thought, which is scarier, murder? Or disappearance before murder? The city hummed under the snow. The old wires creaked like sinew. Somewhere beneath that skin of concrete and frost, a new case was beginning. Without a name. No beginning. The forensic bureau smelled of alcohol and worn coats. It was one of those smells that sticks in your brain along with the photos from the case, grainy, dead, with the eternal question, why, between the lines. The pathologist was old, perpetually tired, with hands that looked as if they were carved from wax. He leafed through the papers without looking at me. The body is unremarkable. Male. Age approximately 45. No external injuries. No signs of strangulation, poison, or fractures. He looked up. It feels like he just shut down. Like a TV. Heart? I asked. Stopped. On its own. But not from old age or pain. It was as if it was waiting for a command, and it didn't come. I didn't answer. More and more often, it seemed to me that this city lived by orders that no one heard. In the evening, I returned to my office on the first floor of a dilapidated building. Only one live outlet was sticking out of the socket. The heater emitted a faint roar, trying to defeat February. On the windowsill, a cactus was living out its last days, which, according to rumors, could bloom once every 100 years. But I had never seen it. I put the photos of the body on the table. Printouts, enlargements. The angle of the arm. The distance from the boot to the stain on the snow. A snowflake frozen in the eyelash pit, where it couldn't have been. A mirror hung in the corner. I caught my reflection in it, tired, crooked, with unkempt stubble and bags under my eyes. A face that was still there. But for some reason, it seemed to be getting smaller. A former colleague from the search department called. We checked all the reports of missing persons. No one like him. Not in the city, not in the region. So what? It means that either he arrived recently, or he's been here for a long time. But no one remembers him. He sighed. Quite possible. There are people like that. They fade away like chalk. I sat in the dark, listening to the dripping battery. What if you disappeared but continued to walk the streets? What if you died, and no one could prove it, not even you? I looked at the body again. And then I noticed it. A small, almost invisible scar under the chin. I knew one like that. I have one just like it. The scar wasn't just similar, it was identical. I touched my chin. A thin thread of skin left over from a fight 20 years ago. The one where I first got hit for real and, I think, first understood that pain is also information. Now that information had been copied. Without asking. I had a dream that night. I am walking down an empty corridor with no beginning and no end. There are doors on both sides. I open them one by one. In each one is me. Different me. Young, drunk, dead, smiling. One is screaming. One is silent. One is looking at me like a stranger. In the last room, there is no one. Only a mirror. But in the reflection, it is still me. I woke up at 4 in the morning. I smoked, staring at the gray ceiling. The sky was the same, dense, dull, as if someone had stretched a dirty sheet over the city. Winter in this place always reminded me of a hospital ward. Everything is quiet, everything is sterile, and you yourself are not sure if you are alive. I went to the archive. Old, cluttered, like a crypt. The smell of mold and time. I'm looking for cases with similar characteristics, I said to the attendant, no identification, erased fingerprints, no dental records. The last 10 years. He grunted and pulled out some folders. I delved into them like into a swamp. Reading such cases is like trying to remember a forgotten dream, it seems familiar, but it keeps slipping away. And suddenly, a coincidence. One case. A body without documents, found 6 years ago in winter. The right half of the face was missing. As if it had dissolved. Cause of death unknown. The name in the detective column was Maxfer. I recoiled as if a gust of wind had hit me in the face. I didn't remember this case. At all. When I got back, I opened my old notebooks. One page had been torn out of one of them. The case numbers were in order, 1137, 1138. And then a gap. It had been torn out too neatly. Too deliberately. The office felt cold, even though the heater was still hissing. I glanced at my reflection, and for a second it seemed to me that it was lagging behind. For a moment. For half a breath. The scar under my chin tingled. I cursed, closed the folder, and realized. This wasn't just a nameless corpse. This was the beginning of an invasion. Into my life. Into my personality. Into what I called myself. I sat in my office as night melted away outside the window and thought, what if someone is erasing the memories of more than just the dead? What if he was already here, in this chair, drinking my coffee, speaking with my voice? On the table was a photo of the body. I looked closely. In the curve of the earlobe was a small mole. I have the same one. This was no coincidence. It was an attempt at substitution. Or, a return. I went to one of my old contacts, a former agent who now dealt with digital shadows. His name was Shut, and it suited him. He knew how to make information jump on one leg. I want you to check everything about this body. Cameras, movement, data transfer, background signals. Even atmospheric noise. I tossed him the file. He grimaced. You're asking me to find a ghost. He already found me, I replied. While Jester poked around in the code, I went to the library. The city library, old, from the days when books were issued against a receipt. I was looking for newspapers from 6 years ago. And I found it. A small note. The body of an unidentified man was found on the outskirts. Distinguishing features, facial deformity. The investigation is being conducted by a private detective. Name withheld. The newspaper was signed and dated. I turned the page and saw my own handwriting. A note in the margins. Don't dig. He'll wake up. I stood rooted to the spot, surrounded by the smell of dust and rotting paper. Someone I used to be already knew this. And tried to warn me. But memory is an unreliable witness. Especially when someone leaves blank spots in it. The Jester called in the evening. Max, something strange. The camera at the power line recorded interference 2 hours before the body was found. There's a signal in this interference. Very weak, but it repeats. Your date of birth. Your address. And the word, reproduced. My mouth went dry. Where was the signal before that? Shut paused. It wasn't before that. It came from inside. From the body. I went back to my place and sat down in front of the mirror. The light was flickering. The clock had stopped. I said aloud. If you can hear me, come out. Look at yourself. From the depths of the reflection, with a microscopic delay, my eyebrow rose slightly before I had time to twitch it. I have always considered myself a logical person. A skeptic. Someone who does not believe in coincidences until proven otherwise. But now every mirror has become a question. And every answer is a reminder that I no longer believe in myself. I went to the morgue. Again. I had to see him, myself, without glass, without intermediaries, without time between glances. The night corridor seemed longer than usual. The walls whispered with mold. The fluorescent light crackled like old newsreel film. The guard was dozing. I signed the logbook with someone else's name. The body lay in a cold storage room, under a number that was not in the catalog. Even here, he was a stranger. Or hidden. I opened the drawer. I lay with my eyes closed, as if simply waiting for a signal. A signal to turn on. I stared at his face, faceless. But now I could see, lines shone through the thin layer of artificial smoothness. Fine, like cards. The contours of my life. I took a needle from the attendant and ran it along the cheek of the body, and a thin trail of blood appeared from under the surface. Red. Not black, not blue. Real. He was alive. Or had been, once. I went home. I didn't sleep. Phrases stood in my head like people in a corridor before an interrogation. He was before you. You are not the original. Time does not move. It is recorded. The Jester sent a new message. Max, the signal repeated. This time in your apartment. The camera you installed yourself. He was in the room. 3 minutes. Then he disappeared. I opened the video. On the screen was my office. My chair. I walked out of the frame. A moment later, he appeared. He stands in the shadows. His face is indistinct, but his movements are the same. His gestures. Like a mirror image. He touches my desk, leafs through my notes, leans over, and whispers something. But there is no sound. Only silence. At the last second, he looks up directly into the camera. And his lips form a word. Remember. I got up and walked over to the mirror. I looked at myself as if for the first time. Which one of us is left? I asked aloud. From the depths of the reflection, silence. But a silence in which expectation can be heard. Old cases always smell of time. And death. But this case smelled of something else. As if someone had opened the box where I had hidden myself. And now I didn't know who was looking from inside, me at him, or him at me. The jester called at dawn. "Max, you won't believe this. I hacked into the internal archive network of the Registration Bureau. I found a mention of your body. That is, the body they found. And it's registered. In the system. With a name." I froze. "Mine? No. A pseudonym. But it's linked to your passport ID. The entry was made 6 years ago. Through a work terminal accessible only from one place. The office of Private Detective Maxfer." I lit a cigarette. The matches trembled in my fingers. 6 years ago. The same year that case with the torn-out page disappeared. When I vanished for a week, and told everyone I was just on a bender. Maybe I was. Maybe not. Maybe someone made a copy that week. Recorded me. Created a duplicate. For what purpose? I went to see a woman who still remembered the city before it began to fade away. An old woman with eyes like wells. Her name was Varvara Petrovna. She used to be an archivist. Now she lived in a communal apartment where the wallpaper was peeling off like the skin of a corpse. I showed her the photo of the body. She didn't flinch. She just said, "He already came. A few years ago. He was looking for you." What did he say? He said he was you. But with a mistake. A broken version. He said he wanted to come back. But he didn't know how. And then he disappeared. And everything in my apartment started buzzing. I went out onto the staircase, which creaked like a dried-up spine. The wind blew in my face. The city was silent. Silent because it knew. In the evening, I decided to check the camera's archive again. He was on the recording. Back in my office. This time, he was speaking. And shut restored the sound. Quietly, but clearly. "You came after me. Don't look for the answer. You are the answer." And then I understood. Maybe he doesn't want to take my life. Maybe he just wants me to understand that I'm not the first. I always believed that every person is a story. Written. Lived. With mistakes, with torn pages. But now I'm starting to suspect. I'm not a story. I'm a draft. The jester sent the coordinates. "Max, there's another recording. A surveillance camera at the old power plant. 2 nights ago, someone broke in. There's almost no movement. But the silhouette. He fell silent. It doesn't cast a shadow. The old thermal power plant. A monument to decay. It once provided the city with light and noise. Now, only rust, steel skeletons, and the feeling that someone is breathing inside, even though everything has long been dead." I walked down the corridor with rotten linoleum, the flashlight picking out inscriptions on the walls. Some of them were fresh. "Come back. I was here." He must not remember. The machine room was silent, so dense that the noise in my ears seemed like a loudspeaker. In the center stood a capsule. Not literally, more like a room, partitioned off by screens made of metal cabinets and covered with black plastic. I entered. Inside was a mirror. Large, with a gold frame. Out of place. Almost theatrical. In front of it was a chair. On the chair was a note. "You are not the first, but you are the last. The point of entry is in the mirror. But don't look at the reflection if you're not ready to become it." I looked. And it looked back. And I understood. It wasn't just a reflection. It was a door. It was a memory. Not mine. It's the one who was before. Or will be later. A noise came from the mirror. As if an old tape recorder had been turned on. The words were fragments, like voices from radio interference. Restoration of identity. Experimental copy. Reset successful. Then, my voice. I am Maxfer. I agree. I am entering. I recoiled. My throat was dry. I never said that. But the voice was mine. I went out into the night. The air smelled of ash. The world seemed fake, like a stage set. And I thought, what if he hadn't come for me all this time? What if he just wanted me to reach the mirror myself? So that I would remember. Mirrors don't lie. Faces, passports, other people's memories, empty apartments, old wounds lie, but mirrors don't. They only repeat. And if you see something extra in the reflection, it's not them lying. It's you who has become someone else. I returned home. I locked the door with 3 locks. I checked the window. I sat down in front of the mirror. The same scar, the same stubble, the same shadows under my eyes. But now I saw that everything was slightly different. Slightly shifted. As if someone had put me together from memory. And missed. Just a little. By a millimeter. But that was enough. The jester came himself. Wet from the snow. His face looked like foil, fatigue and fear under one glare. He threw a flash drive on the table. Max. I found the source code. What? He stared at me without blinking. You. The project was called Backup Personality. It was developed in case of a system crash as part of a special program for storing operational units. You are a copy. Created to survive if the original dies. I was silent. But the original didn't die. It disappeared. I nodded. And now it's coming back. The night was pitch black. I returned to the power plant. To the mirror. This time I knew what to do. I stood in front of it. I looked closely. I remember, I said. How I woke up in an empty apartment. How I couldn't remember my childhood address. How one tooth didn't match on the X-ray. I blamed it all on age. But you knew. From the very beginning. The reflection moved. It blinked out of sync. It smiled too early. Who are you? I asked. And it answered. With a voice that was mine, but deeper. More confident. I am you. The real you. And you are just a repeat. A mistake. But you did what I couldn't. You made it to the end. And now the choice is yours. Enter and disappear. Or stay and know that you are a stranger. I closed my eyes. And took a step. The world turned upside down. Noise. Light. A flash of pain, like birth. And then, emptiness. I woke up in my chair. In my office. Everything was in its place. The clock was ticking. Outside the window, snow. The Joker called. Max, the body disappeared from the morgue. What body? The one they found in the vacant lot. You were handling that case. I paused. I don't remember that. I hung up the phone. I looked in the mirror. And smiled. My reflection smiled back. At the same time,